5, 4. You're in tune. Chicago's most popular college music radio station, 89.3 is WKKC. This is Focus Talk, the thought-provoking, solution-oriented talk show daring to make a difference in our communities. We're talking on a regular basis. Why? Because the answers really matter. What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about politics, religion, personal development, education, history, music, and then from time to time, we are spotlighting positive people who are doing positive things right here in the Inglewood community, throughout the Chicagoland area, and all over the nation. I'm your host, Dennis Snipe. Joining me in the studio today is my very good friend. She is a comedian, she's my friend, and she is a businesswoman who has made the whole comedy industry something that is unique and revolutionary. Miss Mona Aburmishan.
Yeah.
Is that right?
You got it.
I got it.
You did it. It's a lot of letters.
How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
I am happy that you decided to come
and
hang out with me for a little while. Now, there are a lot of things that you're doing, and I know that there are many more things that you're doing since the last time you were here.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about comedy and how you got involved in comedy.
Comedy, my true love. How I got into comedy was I was working on my master's thesis. I had just got back from living in Africa, and I worked for a company that I really wasn't vibing with. And so I thought I had this come to Jesus meeting with myself, and I said, should I pack up and move outside the U.S. and actually pursue international development, which is what I have my master's in?
Okay.
Or should I try something different? Try a dream, because I was just approaching 30, so I try a dream that I've always wanted to try, and that was comedy. And so I was like, well, it's cheaper. I don't have to get on a plane and fly away, so why not try Chicago? Chicago's the home of comedy. I lived here. Why not try my heart, pursuing some kind of comedy, whether it's improv or stand-up, and that's the kind of the path I went. And once I did my first comedy performance, once I did my first stand-up set, I was like, yo, this is it.
Okay.
You know, you're like you find something, like, this is it. This is it. Yeah.
Okay.
So once I did, within a year of that self-revelation, I was like, yep.
So now I know that there are a lot of different aspects to comedy, and different comedians that I've talked to before, they have a different method to their madness as far as how they do it. Some people just get on stage and whatever it is that they see, they talk about. Others have routines that they've worked out and worked out well. How do you do it?
So it's that stuff that sticks out.
Okay.
It's that little, you're like, that was weird. Like, for instance, getting pulled over by a Metra cop. The squad car said Metra.
Okay.
How was he pulling over a person in a car, not pulling over a train? So when that happens, you're like, wait a minute, that's weird. So then I note it down, and then I'll tell someone in my full Mona way, and then if they start laughing, okay, there's a bit, there's potential.
Okay.
And so then I finesse it, take it on one stage, okay, see how it got, take it on another stage, build it up. So that's my method. There's a lot of comedians who just sit and write on paper. And sometimes I can do that. I can write one-liners. But really, that's it. It's those weird things that kind of just stick out in your head. Is that was funny or weird or odd that ends up being material.
Now, Mona, do you sometimes have other people to write material for you, and then you take it and Monarize it?
No.
No?
I think only the real rich, the ones that have big shows like the big guys, like from Jay Leno to Jimmy Fallon, all those guys, they have like a writers group, okay. But if you're on a level like we are, and I think 99% of Chicagoans would never allow someone else to write their material, because it wouldn't make sense from my perspective, being, my background, my age, my history. It wouldn't make sense if I did jokes that someone else came up with. It doesn't have the same upbringing or background.
Okay.
So yeah, we write our own.
Okay.
All the greats have to write their own.
All right. Now, speaking of history, you are a Chicago native.
Oh, yeah.
And you have a lot of history right here in the Chicagoland area and the various parks and so on and so forth. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I was born and raised right by Wrigley, so Clark and Addison. And I've lived and I've moved around on all different scenes because I feel like a real Chicagoan knows all the sides. Like I dated a guy that never went north of Roosevelt for the majority of his life, and he was 40. I was like, that's a shame. Come on over. And so I've played, like I said, softball on Jackson Park and Washington Park with some of the oldest leagues in the country are there, based there. But I've also, lived and worked on the north side and on the west side and on like in the western suburbs. So, and I was also a limo driver. So that's one of the most beautiful parts about bringing it all together is being able to move around and know really the impact of the Hillside Strangler that goes from Chicago through Austin into Oak Park, and the socioeconomic impact of that expressway condensing, or the fact that the L stops in Forest Park. Why doesn't it go further so that more people can get jobs? So for me, my passion has been Chicago. My first love was Chicago. From watching and listening to documentaries to at night, sometimes I'll just take the really long way home so I can see how some streets connect and how they change. So I love this city.
So based on your background, you've done so many different things, then that makes you just a shoe-in for comedy because you see things in a different view than a lot of other people would.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think first and foremost, a lot of comedians have something that happened in their past that made them not see that they were part of society, but they were viewing society. So whether it's they were cracked or something happened. So that's what happened to me. I grew up as an overweight Arab, Palestinian, Muslim kid in the city that sometimes was in the suburbs. I just didn't fit. So yeah, being Palestinian in the late 80s where the missile crises and the hijacked planes wasn't cool. It wasn't awesome at that time. Right. So from that point forward, I used to just view and watch how people were. And I always found that fascinating. And then when I would relay it usually got laughs, especially if I can take a room full of people from all walks of life and make them laugh on one comment, then I had that ability to bring people together. And that's really what fueled me actually going into comedy professionally and around the world, is to being able to unify people, because all the differences is just, it's making me feel bleh. But being able to make somebody laugh at me dancing silly to house music, because house music is the best, being able to bring a room full of people together, or making fun of the chicken nugget. Like, I don't trust people born after 86 because the chicken nugget was already online in 86, and I don't trust their motives. So saying something silly can really unify a room of people, no matter where they're from in the world.
So is that difficult to look out in the audience and you see a motley crew of different faces, and then to be able to bring all of those faces or thought processes together with one particular line? Is that something that you really have to work at in order to do, or you're just good at it?
Well, I have to say, it took me a great deal of self-exploration to see that every person in that room is a me and a you. Every person doesn't like getting the red light tickets. Every person in that room has a taste for Doritos at some point in the middle of the night, maybe. I don't know. Like, as a group, I know that I've had fear. So when I grew up in high school as a fat kid, I was always scared of the cheerleader-looking chicks, right? And so then I noticed that in the beginning of me doing stand-up, I would judge them. Or I would judge the white bro dudes with a cap backward. I would judge them because I would think something about them. But over time, as I've been doing stand-up, I realized they're just like us. They all don't like or do like certain things. So knowing that and putting my judgment towards the audience, and also I'm trilingual. I've lived around the world. So it can be easy to think Americans in general are dumb. But I'm American, so I'm clearly not. So really, one of the things in my evolution as a comedian is I've had to put down my judgment of the audience, and as soon as I did, I brought everybody together. Okay. So it was my evolution that actually happened. And if you ever see comedians, like today I was watching Carlin, and some of his last stuff is angry, and he's yelling at the audience, and I'm like, you're mad. You're not delivering from love and humor. You're mad, and that's the difference. So if you see comedians yelling at the audience, it's because they're unhappy personally, and they're putting the blame on the audience. And the audience is like me and you. They did nothing. They just came to watch a comedy show. Okay. Who's your favorite? Depends on what. As far as comedy is concerned. Well, yeah. So my favorite in terms of impact and females in the business would have to be Joan Rivers and Lucille Ball. they pushed the envelope. They went into realms that women weren't allowed. Carol Burnett, because she did it, but she did it from joy. It always seemed like Lucille Ball didn't really want to be a comedian. She wanted to be taken as a serious actress. Okay, so there's the female realm. Then you've got the brains. You've got Carlin, who could break down the dictionary, and you're like, and it's just like mental candy. Then you've got obviously Richard Pryor and Dave Chappelle, who pushed the envelope on social. Like, these guys were social activists. So that's the comedians I've always been inspired by, is because they're taking the medicine that's difficult to take, and they're putting it in food and giving it to you in a laughter. We're talking about race, we're talking about gender, we're talking about all these things, but we're doing it with a smile and laughing, and we can release the tension. Louis C.K., Bill Burr, there's a lot of these comedians who really can push the envelope of conversation, no matter what decade they were in, but they were honoring the social tensions at the time. And that's, so that, like I said, I just gave you a list of 7 or 8 names.
Yeah, you did.
There isn't one of them, because it's like a patchwork quilt. Internationally, Trevor Noah, Russell Peters. So because I take my show and I take it to the Middle East, I take it to people where they don't know if they're gonna have electricity at the day of the show, or they're gonna have running water. And I take it to London, the UK. It's got its own beautiful base of stand-up, and to be able to be the American in the room, a female, being taken seriously, Chicago style, it's amazing how fast I can get them to laugh. Just being me, that's the thing that's beautiful. Is what I take on stage is I just take me, and I'm usually able to bring a room together.
Okay, all right. Mona, tell me a little bit about the Comedy Bowl.
The Comedy Bowl. Oh,
yeah.
That's my baby. Okay. So I started it 2.5 years ago, and I started this comedy show because I was getting bored. I had been in and done a lot of shows at bars and with a lot of dudes that are like, bro, and the material was getting dumber and dumber, and the more someone drank at the bar, it was getting sillier and sillier. And so I was like, I want something that's smart and engaging, because I'm a smart broad, and a lot of comedians are actually really smart.
And you address yourself as a broad. I won't even talk about that. Go ahead.
I'm a Chicagoan. I'm not gonna. Okay. So I wanted something that really inspired me, and I always liked trivia. Okay. I'm a trivia dork. Like, I know the most. I know that the size of the Amazon plant in Minooka is the same size as the Sears Tower on its side. I know why the Sears Tower is now called Willis Tower. There's just random things I know. And so I thought, why not have a comedy show where in the middle of the comedy show, you have a trivia contest for the audience. And so it gets engagement from the audience. We get to talk about a subject that I've learned about or I'm passionate about. Right. And then you have more comedy. Then you have a lip sync challenge. So it's an entertaining show that we do twice a month on Tuesdays. And I chose Tuesday specifically to have this show at the Comedy Bowl, which is at Diversity River Bowl. I chose Tuesday because Tuesday is that day that isn't like any other day. Tuesday's the day you know about your life. Your life choices. Yeah. Okay. It's not Monday, because everyone hates Mondays, but you just had Sunday. You just had a weekend, so you really can't complain that much. Right? It's not Wednesday, because Wednesday's hump day and you're almost on the horizon. You're seeing Thursday. Thursday is that cool jazzy day. It's not Friday, but I don't know, you're like, I can still go out and get away with it. What? Because tomorrow's Friday.
Yeah, Friday Eve.
Right. It's Friday Eve. Right. Friday's Friday. People stop working mentally at noon on Friday anyway. Then you got Saturday, the best day of the week. And then you got Sunday, where it's kind of chill family mode, but Monday's on the horizon. Tuesday's the day, that's your life. Whether the job that you've chosen, the partner you have, you're like, yo, this is it.
Never thought about it like that, but...
So every time I see someone in my room, in my comedy show on a Tuesday, I'm like, I like you. You decided that today's the day I'm going to go watch some comedy. Because, yeah, that's it. And we get to have fun. And so that's why when I worked corporate, I hated Tuesdays. Tuesdays just made me sad. So.
Okay. All right. So now the people that are featured on the Comedy Bowl, where do you get them from?
Oh, I am so lucky. I'm so lucky that I worked the scene for 4 years and then started my show, because I have contacts from some of the best comedians based in Chicago, like, for instance, Pat McGann. Pat McGann's been on Letterman, and he's a Chicago boy. He's a South Side guy. He comes and he kills. And a lot of these comedians who come through the show, they're international touring headliners that are based here in Chicago. And unlike a lot of the comedians, they haven't left. So we gotta support Chicago comedy, because all the great comedians come through Chicago and they put their grounds here, and then they're like, oh yeah, Chicago made me great, and then they leave. Lil Rel left. D-Ray left. There's a lot of guys. Bernie Mac didn't. Bernie Mac stayed. And I've always respected. I've read his biography more than once. He stayed here in Chicago because Chicago's a source. Because we're not the East, we're not the West, we're in the middle. And whenever I travel outside Chicago, they're like, I like you. I'm like, you like me because I'm everybody. because that's why we do smart stuff in a silly way. That's a good combo of Chicago comics. So I've been able to pull from a really diverse group, and that's the thing. I really make sure that my lineup has all the rainbow as well as all the different skill sets. So I always make sure I save a spot for a new guy who's never tried comedy, who's always wanted to try comedy. You know, it's like I have a couple people that came and their first set was on my show, and then now they're doing comedy in the city. And now there's so many opportunities for comedians that I'm hoping that we're going to continue. So thank you for having me on this show, because you're supporting a local talent that I don't have to, I got to go to New York to make something of myself, or I've got to go to LA. No, Chicago's where it's at.
Now, give me your web address so that individuals can get more information, not only about you, but about the Comedy Bowl as well.
MonaComedy.com has everything, from my bio to pics to videos and to all the shows that I produce all over the city.
Okay. And will it also let us know what's next?
Yeah. I'm going on tour in August. It's going to be Palestine, South Africa, India, and then back home, Chicago. So it's going to be, I'm so grateful. It's going to be an amazing summer.
Sounds good. Now, Mona, you brought some gifts along with you today.
A little bit of swag.
I've got the Comedy Bowl glasses. All right. And I also have,
you look so cool.
Yeah, don't I?
You look so cool.
And then also I have a scarf here. So give me some information.
Okay. So this scarf is called Hatta, Hattah, or a kafiyeh. Now, if you recall, Yasser Arafat used to wear one on his head.
All right.
Okay. So it's the symbol of resilience and freedom fighting. That's the source is Palestine. And the town that's right next to, basically it's my dad's hometown where I go every time I'm in Palestine, is the only place on the earth that still makes them. And so I went there and I bought a bunch, and I like to give them out as gifts so that you can wear it, and I'll show you. It's really awesome to wear in the wintertime, or if you're in a jewel in the summer where you're going to freeze to death, you can wear this scarf.
That's customary of Chicago.
Isn't it? It's always, I'm like, why am I have goosebumps here and it's 90 degrees outside? So this scarf, and I'll help you fold it in the triangle way, it's a symbol of like just a freedom fighter, or like social activism, social justice. So, and it's the original. There's a lot of people that have mimicked the pattern from, like, obviously they make it in India and China and whatnot, but this is the original from the original plant, and the only plant that's still Palestinian made. And I wanted you to have it because I really have a lot of respect for you.
I am looking forward to you showing me how to fold it.
Okay, I will.
So we'll probably do that after the show when we get some additional information. But then the third thing that you brought.
Oh yeah.
A Mona bag.
Yes.
Mona Comedy.
Right. Because Chicago's trying to get us. They're trying to get us for our 7 cents. And I can't tell you, I have an entire room devoted to plastic bags that I've purchased and I keep forgetting to bring. But this particular bag, it's that right size where it's not as huge as some of the Aldi bags, but not as small or cheap as some of the Walgreens ones. So this bag, we sell it for $2 at the shows. And I tend to give them away as prizes from trivia prizes. Right. But it's got a little pocket. It's got my logo, Mona Comedy Inc. It's got my mom's drawing, which is our logo as well. Okay. And it just makes me happy. You'd be surprised how much you can fit in there. You can fit probably like 15 bottles of 2-liter pop. If that's what you want to drink, you can fit it in there.
All right. Mona, thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me.
coming today and sharing a little bit about who you are and what you do. Please know that the door here at Focus Talk is always open. You don't have to knock. Just come on in. And before we go, give us your website once again.
MonaComedy.com.
Okay.
Thank you, Dennis.
Mona Aburmishan, thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you the next time. And I want to say to each and every one of you, sound without focus is simply noise. Stay focused. We'll talk again real soon.
This is Focus Talk with Dennis Snipe on 89.3 WKKC.
Joe.
Blackula.